The following day, Li Chifeng quietly left the island together with his two companions through the connection of formless killing mechanism. Li Fan sensed them heading steadily northward, their presence growing farther and farther away. As their silhouettes gradually faded into indistinct blurs, Li Fan finally ceased tracking Li Chifeng. Li Fan reflected inwardly. There are still 40 to 50 years remaining. If fate allows in the future, perhaps I'll personally visit their empire. Yet for this lifetime, his highest priority remained reaching the Foundation establishment realm as quickly as possible. After returning to Myriad Immortals Island, Li Fan entered another period of secluded cultivation, quietly digesting and organizing the insights he had gained while observing those Foundation establishment breakthroughs. Once he emerged from seclusion, he carefully examined the atlas of the geographical areas surrounding the Tsongyun Sea that his avatar Lin Fan had exchanged for. As the map unfolded clearly within his mind, Li Fan realized that the seemingly endless Tsongyun Sea was actually nothing more than an inland sea. It appeared as though some incomparably powerful existence had forcibly carved a massive crack opening through the continent itself. The Tsongyun Sea was almost entirely enclosed by land masses. Only in the southeastern direction did a comparatively narrow waterway connect it to the boundless open ocean beyond. North of the Tsongyun Sea was Yongliang Province, the very region Li Chifeng and his companions had fled toward, to the west and south, descending from upper to lower regions, Leizhoushan Province, Shilin Province, and Yan'an Province respectively. All three belonged to the territories governed by the Myriad Immortals Alliance. Meanwhile, the northern Yongliang Province fell under the jurisdiction of the Five Elders Council. Li Fan contemplated silently. We are already nearing anchor year 14, it's time to begin preparing a retreat path. Once I secure the deep sea pearl, I must immediately leave the Tsongyun Sea. I'll leave an avatar behind here to continue observing future developments. As for where I should go next, Li Fan carefully studied the details regarding each province. Jiushan Province bordered Yongliang Province directly, making the region comparatively unstable. Shilin Province and Yan'an Province were largely similar in overall conditions. However, Yan'an Province bordered the endless ocean and possessed extremely abundant water attribute spiritual qi. Since his plan was to use the Deep Sea Pearl for Foundation establishment, Yan'an Province was clearly the better and more suitable option. Li Fan also discovered that throughout the Xianhuang world, provincial borders were not artificially designated. Instead, they were naturally separated by mysterious regions known as white mist barriers. Both ordinary mortals and cultivators were capable of traversing these white mist barriers. However, the price for crossing them was one's lifespan. The longer the crossing took, the greater the lifespan consumed in the process. Very few mortals willingly attempted to cross white mist barriers, because at mortal speeds, most would simply age to death before ever reaching the opposite side. Cultivators could naturally travel much faster through flight, yet even so, every crossing would still consume no less than 30 days of lifespan, while 30 days might not seem excessive. Repeated crossings would eventually drain even the lifespan reserves of golden core cultivators. As a result, the overwhelming majority of cultivators followed a common principle: never relocate unless absolutely necessary. Most people spend nearly all their lives active solely within the confines of their own province. Fortunately, every province was incomparably vast, none smaller than the entire Tsongyun Sea itself. Combined with the existence of colossal organizations such as the Myriad Immortals Alliance, whose influence extended across the cultivation world, resources were rarely lacking. Because of this, many cultivators could spend their entire lives within a single province without significantly hindering their cultivation progress. Of course, there also existed ultra-long-distance teleportation arrays capable of transporting cultivators between provinces. However, while this method reduced the lifespan cost to roughly 10 days, the required expense was astronomical. Only an extremely small minority of cultivators could afford such a luxury. After further investigation, Li Fan discovered that no white mist barrier existed between Yan'an Province and the Tsongyun Sea. Furthermore, Myriad Immortals Island itself contained a specialized teleportation array directly connected to Yan'an Province. For a brief moment, several familiar figures flashed across Li Fan's thoughts. He pondered inwardly. If I truly manage to reconstruct the mountain-sitting art successfully, then individuals possessing extraordinary talent will become immensely valuable to me. after leaving this place. Perhaps I should bring some of them along and test the effects of the mountain-sitting art directly. However, traveling alongside mortals would certainly create countless inconveniences. I should make preparations ahead of time. After considering matters carefully, Li Fan decided to use the teleportation array to personally visit Yuanao province and inspect the region firsthand. The general structure of Yuanao province was remarkably similar to the Tsongyan Sea. Nearly every major mortal settlement possessed defensive formations and foundation establishment cultivators acting as protectors. Floating high above Yuanao province was a colossal city suspended in the heavens. It bore the same name as the province itself. Yuanao Sky City. The layout of Yuanao City was identical to that of Myriad Immortals Island, as if carved from the same template, giving Li Fan an unexpected sense of familiarity. At the city center stood a Tianxian mirror. Li Fan entered and found it functioned exactly like the one on Myriad Immortals Island. Li Fan thought to himself, "So this is the state of things beneath the governance of the Myriad Immons Alliance. I wonder what conditions are like within the territories controlled by the Five Elders Council." Mortals were strictly forbidden from entering Yuanao Sky City. The largest mortal city in Yuanao province was known as Wielding City. After teleporting there, Li Fan spent 50 contribution points purchasing a courtyard from the city guardian, intending to use it as a future foothold and temporary base. Following that, Li Fan piloted the Taiyan boat personally, flying all the way from Yuanao province back toward the Tsongyan Sea. His purpose was to scout and familiarize himself with the route he would eventually use to depart. By the time Li Fan returned once more to Myriad Immortals Island, it had already become anchor year 14. Throughout this entire period, Zhang Haobo had continuously pursued the traces left behind by storm floods without rest. Initially, his predictions regarding the timing and locations of storm flood appearances were often inaccurate, yet little by little, Zhang Haobo's judgment became increasingly precise. Eventually, he could arrive at the exact location at the precise moment each storm flood was born. But now, Zhang Haobo had completely ceased chasing after storm floods. Instead, he hovered motionlessly in midair like a stone statue, staring fixedly upward at something invisible to others. He had remained in this state for a very long time. Suddenly, Zhang Haobo's robes began fluttering violently despite the complete absence of wind, producing loud rustling sounds. At the same time, an unseen force appeared to lift his body upward little by little. His ascent rapidly accelerated until he shot straight toward the heavens at astonishing speed. He released a long piercing cry before suddenly exploding forward, transforming into a streak of azure radiance that violently crashed into empty space itself. Simultaneously, a faint water-blue glow quietly ignited around his entire body. Zhang Haobo's figure abruptly disappeared from the world entirely. And Li Fan's observational perspective was dragged alongside him into an incomprehensibly bizarre hidden space. Within that mysterious realm stood a translucent azure figure with closed eyes. Raised high within its hands was a prison cage woven entirely from strands of azure light. Inside the cage, a black sword hilt radiating monstrous killing intent continuously slammed itself against the cage bars, struggling furiously to break free from confinement. Occasionally, fragments of azure light were shattered loose by those impacts, scattering downward across different regions of the Tsongyan Sea. And wherever those fragments landed, they transformed into violent storm floods. Sole arbiter of heaven and earth. Wind? Li Fan's mind shook violently. The appearance of this azure figure resembled crimson flame from his previous life to an astonishing degree. The only difference was that the great Tao resonance emanating from it clearly consisted of a concentrated manifestation of the law of wind. Even under the protection of heaven watches and earth listens, the irresistible attraction naturally emitted by the sole arbiter toward cultivators immediately began eroding Li Fan's consciousness. Across countless thousands of li, Li Fan's perspective became distorted and unstable. His attention nearly shifted uncontrollably away from Zhang Haobo, his original focus, and toward azure wind itself. Deep within the Tianxian mirror inside Li Fan's sea of consciousness, the blue flame phantom spirit suddenly awakened. It slowly opened its eyes and gazed toward azure wind's direction. Instantly, it felt as though a bucket of icy water had been poured over Li Fan's entire body. His temperature dropped sharply, and the amplified greed and desire within his heart rapidly faded away. His thoughts became incomparably cold and rational once again. allowing Li Fan to quietly continue observing the bizarre spectacle unfolding before him. After staring at Azure Wind for a long while, Li Fan slowly shifted his gaze toward the black sword hilt. The murderous aura radiating from it had nearly condensed into physical substance, forming a writhing layer of black matter that enveloped the hilt completely. Beneath the hilt, a short broken fragment of the blade itself could faintly be seen. The black hilt struggled violently within the azure cage like a living creature. From time to time, it released horrifying roars that shook the entire azure prison violently, yet regardless of how fiercely it fought, it remained utterly incapable of escaping its confinement. Within the cage, Li Fan could faintly perceive streams of azure airflow violently swirling around. Who could possibly imagine that the catastrophic storm floods devastating the Tsungyun Sea were merely the aftermath of a clash between a sole arbiter of heaven and earth and a broken sword hilt? The power of the Tao Unity realm is truly terrifying beyond imagination. In my previous life, the storm floods one day ceased entirely. Perhaps that was because this sword hilt was ultimately destroyed completely? Or perhaps, just what kind of origin does this sword possess? Even as nothing more than a shattered hilt, it can still contend equally against the Tao Unity level sole arbiter of heaven and earth for such an extended period of time. If it were fully intact and restored to its peak condition, just how terrifying would its power truly be? Countless thoughts flashed rapidly through Li Fan's mind. Soon afterward, he returned his attention toward Zhang Haobo. Battles between Tao Unity-level existences are fundamentally impossible for ordinary cultivators to perceive. Furthermore, this confrontation is concealed inside an independent hidden space. Zhang Haobo possesses extraordinary talent and can naturally sense the traces left behind by storm floods, so it's not surprising that he could roughly locate this hidden space. But with only Qi refinement cultivation, it should have been absolutely impossible for him to actually break inside unless... In Li Fan's field of vision, a layer of dazzling blue radiance completely enveloped Zhang Haobo's body. He never once glanced toward Azure Wind, as though he was entirely unaffected by the greed instinctively inspired by the sole arbiter of heaven and earth. Instead, he stared unwaveringly at the azure cage, carefully observing the battle between Azure Wind and the black sword hilt within. Azure Wind itself seemed wholly unaware of Zhang Haobo's existence inside the blue radiance, completely ignoring him and allowing him to perceive their battle from such close proximity. To behave so recklessly before even reaching the Tao Unity realm is truly no different from licking blood from the edge of a blade. However, there is indeed logic behind his confidence. That familiar blue radiance continued flowing endlessly around Zhang Haobo as he silently observed the clash between Azure Wind and the sword hilt. Li Fan calmly analyzed the situation within his heart. Zhang Haobo's fortune and providence continue growing stronger and stronger. Within the Tsungyun Sea, he can already be regarded as one of heaven's favored chosen. Everything proceeds smoothly for him. Opportunities practically deliver themselves directly into his hands. If I relied solely upon my own abilities, even after several cycles of simulation, I might never uncover this hidden place. Yet now, because Zhang Haobo possesses overwhelming providence, he managed to find it almost effortlessly. The Tsungyun Sea alone already contains endless hidden opportunities, if one expands that perspective to encompass the entire cultivation world. Then just how many secrets and inheritances must still remain vanished? Exploring all of them personally would be far too inefficient, but if I instead use these heaven-defying prodigies as my eyes and ears, allowing them to uncover those hidden treasure lands for me, then in the next life, I can simply harvest every useful opportunity directly for myself. Excellent.